Well, being a teenager can be a tough. More than ever, they're experiencing anxiety, depression, bullying, and pressure just to fit in. Parents are also facing the challenges of how to properly relate with their children amidst all these issues. Our guest today is a psychologist, Katie Millar Wirig. She's also a former actress and top 10 Miss America contestant and a mother of 5. And if that's not enough, she's also the author of a book called Becoming a Mean Teen: Parenting Machine, and it is available at thebalancedmindproject.com. Welcome to Bridge City News, Katie. Great to have you on.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Okay, you sound like such an accomplished person. I can't wait to dive into that. The title of your book, too, is it's very interesting, and it sounds almost like it's about being a teen mom, but I believe it's actually about parenting kids through those awkward teen years, right?
For sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I think we can all attest that this is a challenging time of life and
Yeah.
for parents and for teenagers. And so I had many clients come to me and have some issues, whether it was like behavioral or relational issues. And they would constantly ask, like, what do I do to fix this behavior? And I learned through my professional practice and through time and my own parenting that most of these issues stem from deeper root issues. And often it is the relationship. And so this book really tries to get to the core parts of the relationship of what could be lacking that's causing the issues within your home so that you can fix those core parts and then the behaviors will start to resolve themselves.
Oh, fascinating. I think many of us can relate and remember back to being an insecure teen. Maybe let's dive into your background here, Katie. Can you share a bit of your own story and how you got involved in beauty pageants and how these experiences sort of impacted your role as a mom?
Yeah, so around 13 years old, my mom thought it would be fun for us to learn how movies were made. And so we went and were extras on the background of some movies, like Disney Channel movies. A lot is filmed. I'm in Utah. And actually, a lot of these industries are filmed in Utah. They have great tax laws. And so I was able to be an extra on it. Well, through that, I kind of got, I guess you could say, discovered. And for the next 6 years, I worked in the film industry. I was a regular on a WB series, did a lot of Disney movies, a lot of commercials. And during that time, I had a very interesting experience with what women, especially in entertainment, deal with, and young women. And then from there, I went and did the Miss America circuit, and that was really fun. But once again, it showed me that my greatest contribution isn't probably through entertainment or through some of these things, but through strengthening the confidence of the people around me. And so I went in and got my degree. I have advanced degrees in neuroscience and psychology. And now I work exclusively with families and teenagers on building confidence, strengthening relationships, and particularly handling mental health issues like anxiety and depression.
Oh my gosh, I know that your book really dives into that, as well as love languages. So we often hear that catchphrase, love languages, thrown around, but it turns out it's not just for romantic couples, is it? So we all have them. We communicate them to everyone we love, including our immediate family members. So Katie, why is it so important for parents to understand their children's love languages?
Yes, it is so important because our children are developing emotionally, physically, intellectually, spiritually. All of these things are happening in these formative years. And their attachments, the way they attach to other people, are being formed in the home starting as early as birth. And so understanding how your child feels attached, how they feel loved, what they need to feel secure within the relationship will give them a very secure springboard to get them through their marriages in the future, their work life, all of these things. Because as we're seeing now, we didn't understand this, 50 years ago. And we're seeing these pop-ups of personality disorders and mental health crises. And we're seeing that a lot of it is stemming from attachment issues that the person dealt with in their youth, not because the parents necessarily were bad parents or anything. It's just we didn't understand how important it was to really understand each person individually and fulfill those needs for them within our families.
Okay, so you say attachment issues. Can you maybe dive into that a little bit more?
Yeah, just things I know that narcissism is a big buzzword right now, but even
Mhm.
things like narcissism or bullying or depression, suicide, all of these things stem from not understanding who we are, where we belong, and having a safe place. And so it causes people to act out. And so attachment issues is means that you at a critically developmental age did not get what you needed to make you feel secure, so you remain in a survival mode. And until you get those needs met, you will stay in a survival mode, and that survival mode can sometimes be acting out, hurting others, hurting yourself, emotionally detached. All of these things that we would never want on our children come from them not feeling secure. Now, that's an extreme. Obviously, the majority of people aren't going to deal with that. But knowing how your child feels loved and making sure that those needs are met within the home can be one of the best things that you can do to build your child's self-confidence and get them the best opportunities for their future.
So how can those attachment issues be met then? What's lacking?
So I think often in the home, children from their parents know that they are loved, but they don't necessarily know that they're liked. They don't feel wanted and needed. And so one thing that we really address, whether it's in my practice or in the book, is understanding exactly what they need. So, the 5 love languages like touch, words of affirmation, service, quality time, all of these love languages. It's really understanding what your child needs so that you can get right in there. And so one of my child, it's funny, he loves gifts, which is kind of a hard one because we don't want to breed entitlement. And so
Right.
the last thing I want to do is be giving more gifts. But for him, even things like printing a picture of like a fun vacation that we took or something, and then writing on the back, "You look so handsome in this photo," or "I really loved this time," and like putting it under his pillow at night. And so that when he wakes up in the morning, he sees it. Those little things to him make him feel so seen and so loved. Where with another child, if I did that, they'd look at it and be like, "What?" When what they want is just to go out and, jump in the car and do some fun errands with me or something. And so it's just understanding how those needs could be met, because we often are baffled as parents when we raise our children and feel like we gave everything that we could to them. We sacrificed, we did all these things, and we think, how could they not know how much I love them and how much I sacrificed? And oftentimes it's because the way we express love isn't the way they're feeling it. And so they haven't fully comprehended what we're giving them and how much we love them. And so it's not necessarily that there's a problem with the amount of love. It's just a problem with how we're communicating the love.
So interesting. Okay, so you say that most bad behavior in teens stem from their insecurity, and why are teens so insecure? I mean, we were all insecure as teenagers. You're still, trying to find yourself, but it seems these days teens are dealing with so much more anxiety and depression than my generation ever was. So, what do you think is going on here, Katie?
I think this may be unpopular and hard to hear, but one of the biggest changes between our generation to what we're seeing with our children is technology. It's social media, it's the internet, it's all of these things. And when you really think about it, many of their interactions are happening over social media, which are not accurate depiction of the person's life. When I was young, if I didn't get invited somewhere, I just didn't know it. I maybe learned about it the next week and I said, "Oh, I wasn't there. I wonder why." It's not thrown in my face through posts and through, all of this social grouping. And so it's very hard for our kids with social media, which is why I have partnered with Wait Until Eighth, which is a foundation that encourages people to wait till 8th grade for a phone, and then wait till at least 16, if not even 18, for social media accounts, just because it is so hard on their mental health. So that's number one. The second is that they do have a lack of relationships because of this technology. We think we have friends and we think we're involved and we're super connected, but when it really comes down to it, our teens are lacking some of that social manners that we learned from having to, speak more face to face and doing things more in person. And so I think that confidence is lacking for them. And so everyone is surrounded by people, but nobody feels like they have a person and someone who really understands them. And I think we need to be very mindful about how we allow technology in our home, especially for our teenagers and our children.
I mean, it's great to say wait till 8th, but you try implementing that in the home, and like all their friends have got phones already, in grade school, and then try to be the one person not on social media. There's also those social pressures. We almost need the schools to jump on board with that, and it just kind of society to follow almost that
Yes,
paradigm shift.
exactly. Wouldn't it be wonderful if all of us kind of grouped together and said, "Hey, all of our children's friends, let's all just set aside our phones." All the
Yeah.
parents decided together. And there have been some really wonderful things that have come out, like the introduction of the flip phone that doesn't allow for, internet, or watches where they can still communicate without having access to the internet. But yes, it is a battle that us parents are going to have to fight. It's a reality of raising children in this generation. But I think it
Mhm.
needs to be one we need to be very intentional about and not let it happen to us, but decide how we're going to allow it to affect our family.
Yeah, it's almost harder to be a parent these days too, as much as it's hard to say that. But your book mentions something, Katie. You say that 1 in 5 teens are depressed. So what's happening and what can we do about it?
This is a hard one because we don't know exactly the reason why we're seeing such a rise in depression. Technology is definitely a factor. We know that there's so many things. We just went through a global pandemic that's also contributing. So there's a lot of contributing factors. I think regardless of what the cause is, the important thing is to recognize that it is a reality we have to deal with as much as we don't might not want to. And so we as parents need to be very educated ourselves on how to teach our children these tools starting now of what they can do when they start to feel these feelings of whether it's depression, anxiety, or unrealistic stress, that we start now to see those things. And one thing I like to teach to my clients is that just like we taught our children to walk incrementally or talk or learn math, we need to teach our children incrementally how to deal with their stressors. And so when your child is stressed about a quiz at school or something like that, you might roll your eyes and say, that's such a dumb reason to be so upset. But recognize that just like it was hard to learn 2 plus 2 in the early days, they're learning how to manage their stress. If you can take every opportunity that might be small to teach them how to work through those feelings, then when the big things happen, they'll be more equipped to say, I've been here before, I can do it again. Because I think a lot of times these kids just don't have the tools that they need as soon as these big life events start. And because of that, it does trigger some serious anxiety and depression.
Wow. What role does faith play in guiding our teens to adopt healthy behavior and values?
I think it's vital for all of us, whether you're an adult, a child, a teenager, understanding that there's a higher power and understanding who you are and where you stand with God can be one of the best confidence builders. Now, of course, when we are building confidence in our children, I know for us, we like to encourage our children to do like extracurriculars because I know that it can be a big confidence booster to be part of a team or have a talent that they feel like is their own. But really, confidence comes, it's an innate thing that's given from God that your worth is eternal and your worth is without. It is not dependent on anyone outside of you. It comes from God. And so, if we can give them that faith and that understanding and who they are, then it can stand as the first foundation to their self esteem. And then we as parents just build on that.
You say in your book that kindness is often lost in the home. What do you mean by that?
It's so fascinating to see how well-mannered people are on the street and to people they don't know at school. And then you get a little glimpse, if we could be a fly on the wall in many of these homes, we'd see that there's a lot of, demeaning talking or no patience, and just we assume the worst of each other. And often I have seen that people are unfortunately the meanest to their siblings or their parents, and yet they treat others with more respect. And so we really need to reverse that. Of course, I don't want my child to be mean to someone at school, absolutely not. But I also need them to know that the home is the foundation of society, and we need to make sure that within our home we are treating each other with respect, because these are the people that will be with us forever. These are the people, these are your best friends for your life, or hopefully that's the goal. And so we as parents and siblings and need to be sure that we are encouraging more kindness in the home, and that starts with the parents and how we treat our children.
Absolutely. What are some of the core subjects parents need to talk with their teens about early on?
Yes. So one of the best things you can do, as you're saying, is early on. That is the key word. If you can talk to your child before something's a problem, it will be so much easier than trying to backtrack. So some of the big things we need to talk about nice and early, sometimes even as early as 8, 10, 12, is dating, substances, technology, curfew, academic goals, and then their own personal goals. So if you're going to try to talk to your 16-year-old about curfew, dating, boyfriends, girlfriends, those sorts of things, I guarantee they're already immersed, and pulling them back from that is going to be a lot harder than talking to your 11-year-old as they're starting in junior high and saying, hey, as you go to junior high, you might have these experiences.
Right.
Here's what our home rules are. Here's how we'd like to handle these experiences. If you experience these things, come and talk to me and dad about them, and let's go through and talk how we can manage this. And it will be so much easier. It will also be easier to enact consequences when they do break rules, because both of you will be on the same page early on, and you're talking about it when you're not emotional,
Yeah.
when you're not angry, there hasn't been an infraction already. And so I really encourage people to try to think what was hard for them during, junior high, high school, those sorts of things. Parents, what was hard for you? And then going about 2 years earlier, and then sit down your child in just a controlled time, maybe take them out to lunch or just, in the car, and just introduce those topics before they become an issue.
Okay. Well, with that said, any advice for parents who feel they maybe have already blown it with their teens and feel hopeless?
Nothing is ever hopeless. And even if we feel like we've blown it, life is about experience. And even though, we want to have our children have the most ideal childhood and ideal life, even those things that might have gone not according to plan still give your child valuable experience that they'll learn from and that they'll grow from, and you learn from too. So we're all on this journey together. There's no way to foresee all of the things that could possibly be problematic. The fact that you even are desiring, that you want to fix things, shows that you're a fantastic parent and that things can be mended with time and with patience.
Thanks so much for being with us today, Katie. Appreciate having you on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Katie Millar Wirig is the author of Becoming a Mean Teen Parenting Machine, available at thebalancedmindproject.com. I'm Jeanette Roche on behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News. Thanks so much for watching.